I'm Frederick Lauren, and I've rented the house on Haunted Hill tonight so that my wife can give a party. A haunted house party. She's so amusing. There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited. If any of you will spend the next 12 hours in this house, I'll give you each $10,000. Or your next of kin in case you don't survive. Ah, but here come our other guests.
What if the monster wasn't lurking in the dark, but staring right into your soul? Vincent Price wasn't just a horror's king. He was its most dangerously charming villain. How did he do it? How did he make terror feel irresistible? Was it the way he spoke? Words like velvet with a razor-sharp edge? Or the way he looked at you, like he knew exactly what you feared and loved every second of it? Vincent Price wasn't just a master of horror. He was a master of seduction. He made you shiver and beg for more. He didn't just play monsters. He made you want to follow them into the dark. But what if the man behind the monster was even more terrifying? And once you fell under his spell, there was no escape. Stay with us as we peel back the mask to reveal the man behind the monster. So, before he became horror's suavest villain, Vincent Leonard Price Jr. was just a boy from St. Louis, Missouri. A boy cradled in luxury and steeped in sophistication. His father, the president of the National Candy Company, built an empire of sweetness. His mother, a woman of grace and impeccable taste. And Vincent? He was the boy in finely tailored suits, reciting Shakespeare in the parlor, wandering art galleries like they were playgrounds. But it wasn't just wealth that molded Vincent Price. It was the haunting allure of art, the seductive pull of dark literature. While other boys played baseball, Vincent devoured ghost stories, memorized Edgar Allan Poe, and traced the contours of skeletal remains. He saw beauty in the macabre, the poetry of life and death woven together. At Yale, he studied fine arts and history, immersing himself in the dark, enigmatic works of Goya, Bosch, and Caravaggio, painters who dared to dance on the knife's edge between beauty and brutality. To Vincent, art was more than just paint on canvas. It was a lens, a way to see the world and himself. Every brushstroke, every haunted eye staring back at him. They all whispered of untold stories, stories he would one day bring to life. Vincent carried that dark, artistic eye to the stage, where Shakespeare's tragic heroes and the Greeks' tormented souls became his playground. Every word was a brushstroke, every gesture a haunting masterpiece. A man who limits his interests, limits his life. And Vincent Price? He had no intention of limiting anything. Not his intellect, not his art, and certainly not his dark side. But as the shadows lengthened and the lines between art and reality blurred, Vincent Price, the cultured gentleman, would transform into horror's most seductive nightmare. Hollywood in the 1940s, a land of bright lights and even darker shadows. Leading men with chiseled jaws, silver screen sirens with wicked smiles. But Vincent Price, he wasn't the square-jawed heartthrob or the rugged anti-hero who made women swoon. No, Vincent was different. He was a man of culture, a connoisseur of art, with a voice like silk and eyes that could slice through your soul. In the early days, Vincent played it safe. Suave villains, charming rogues, men who wore their menace behind a sly grin. But it wasn't enough. Hollywood was changing, and so was Vincent. Beneath that cultured exterior, a hunger was growing. A hunger for roles that weren't just sinister, but savage. And then came House of Wax, 1953. A turning point. A role that didn't just change his career. It cracked something open inside him.
That look of horror spoils your lovely face.
Price wasn't just playing a villain. He was transforming into one. A demented sculptor driven to madness, his face a mask of waxy, eerie perfection. Audiences screamed, critics raved, and Vincent Price found his calling. But it wasn't the prosthetics or the haunting set pieces that made Price the undisputed king of horror.
I'm going to give the people what they want. Sensation, horror, shock.
It was that voice, smooth, hypnotic, like velvet wrapped around a dagger. Each word delivered like a dark secret. Each line a lullaby with a knife edge. With House of Wax, Vincent Price had unlocked something dark and powerful within himself. A gift for horror. A way to take that cultured, elegant presence and twist it into something truly disturbing. And then came Roger Corman, the king of B-movie horror. Together, Corman and Price conjured a sinister alchemy, one that blurred the line between the macabre and the magnificent. From the House of Usher to the Pit and the Pendulum, Price became the embodiment of Gothic horror, a man who could seduce you with a smile and chill you to the bone with a single look. Madness, my dear, is but the next step after death. But behind the scenes, Vincent Price was anything but a monster. Co-stars described him as warm, generous, even fatherly, the kind of man who brought cupcakes to set and shared recipes for coq au vin between takes, a man who could switch from Shakespeare to slasher in a heartbeat.
Did you know that I could hear the scratching of her fingernails on the casket lid?
Take House of Usher, a Gothic nightmare steeped in decay and madness. Vincent Price as Roderick Usher, a man haunted by bloodlines, betrayal, and the ghosts of his own mind. Every line delivered like a tragic aria. Every word a brushstroke on a canvas of despair. But here's the real question. Was Vincent Price simply playing the part, or had he become it? For a man whose name became synonymous with fear and dread, Vincent Price carried a heart as boundless as his screen presence. Behind the chilling smirks and sinister stares was a man whose kindness was as legendary as his haunting performances. Take his work with the American Cancer Society. Vincent wasn't just a horror icon. He was a man on a mission to fight real-life horrors like disease and poverty. He lent his iconic voice, his precious time, and his unwavering support to causes that touched his heart, as if by saving others, he could atone for all the monsters he brought to life. And he wasn't doing it for publicity. He was doing it because, beneath the chilling laugh and the sinister eyes, Vincent Price was a man who truly cared. And then, of course, there was art. Vincent's first love, his truest passion. In 1957, he and his wife, Mary, donated over 90 pieces of art to East Los Angeles College, creating the Vincent Price Art Museum. It wasn't just a donation. It was a legacy, a gift that kept on giving, offering students access to culture, beauty, and history. A world that Vincent cherished as deeply as his most iconic roles. And while he terrified millions on screen, off-screen, he was a man of warmth and wit, a man whose laughter was as contagious as his sinister grin. As the years crept on, Vincent Price's roles grew darker, more unhinged, a man who could make a single raised eyebrow as chilling as a scream. But as horror evolved, so did he. And Vincent Price wasn't just surviving in the genre. He was becoming its king. By the 1980s, horror had changed. Gone were the days of Gothic chills and eerie elegance. In their place, slashers, gore, the raw, unfiltered terror of the modern era. But Vincent Price, he still had one last role to play.
Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand.
1982. Michael Jackson's Thriller casts a spell over the world. A spell conjured by none other than Vincent Price, the gentleman of horror, whose haunting voice now echoed in every living room. In that chilling monologue, Price's voice became the stuff of nightmares for a whole new generation. His sinister laugh, that infectious cackle, forever immortalized in pop culture. And for millions of new fans, Vincent Price wasn't just a horror actor anymore. He was a living legend. But even as he reveled in his dark persona, time was catching up. The man who once played mad scientists and vengeful spirits was now facing a villain he couldn't defeat, his own failing health. But before the final curtain fell, Vincent Price had one last role to play, one that would reveal the man behind the mask. A creator, a father. In that moment, Price wasn't the master of horror. He was a man stripped of theatrics, revealing the soul behind the mask. A man who spent his life creating monsters, but in the end, just wanted to be a father. He was gentle, ethereal. I modeled my performance in Edward Scissorhands after him. That softness, that sadness. Vincent Price wasn't just an actor. He was a storyteller, a man who breathed life into darkness and found beauty in the grotesque. Christopher Lee, another horror icon, once said that Vincent Price's power wasn't in the scream, but in the whisper, because the scariest villains aren't the ones who roar. They're the ones who speak softly, as if they're letting you in on a secret you'll never forget. To directors like Tim Burton, Guillermo del Toro, and John Carpenter, Vincent Price was more than a horror icon. He was the master of the macabre, a man who could balance elegance and terror, sophistication and sadism. And even now, decades after his final curtain call, Vincent Price continues to haunt the shadows of modern horror. A voice that lingers like a ghost, a presence that never quite leaves. The gentleman of terror, the master of charm. A man who taught us that true horror isn't found in blood or screams. It's found in the quiet moments, when the monsters are gone, and all that's left is a man who once wore their skin. So, who was Vincent Price, really? A master of horror, the ultimate gentleman, or a man forever caught between two worlds, one filled with charm, the other shadows. A man of elegance, charm, and terror. Vincent Price didn't just act in horror films. He embodied them. He will never be forgotten. But now, we want to hear from you. Tell us, which side of Vincent Price do you believe was the real him? The charming raconteur? Or the haunting figure who never quite left the shadows? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, cast your vote for the moment that defined his legacy. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of a horror legend, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join us as we unravel the dark, dazzling lives of cinema's most captivating icons. Until next time, stay sophisticated, stay spooky, and remember, the scariest monsters are always the ones who smile.